Hello friends, my name is Behroz. I'm a finance executive by profession and welcome to my channel. Now in this video, I will share with you what is the right value of car that you can actually afford. We may have likeness for different kind of cars and they may range from one value to another. However, there are certain realities with regards to our income and our finances. So in this video, I will talk about what is the value of the car that you can afford and how do you go about paying for that car. Now, why is this question important? The reason this question is important because today an average car payment value ranges from $740 to $530. Depending on if it's a new car, it would be somewhere around $740. And if it's a used car, it will be somewhere around $530. Is this an amount that you can afford or not? Out of your total expenses that you are incurring, starting from your rent, your groceries, your shopping, your entertainment, can you afford to pay $740 or $530 or whatever that amount is? Similarly, if your dream car is, let's say, $50,000 worth of value, is that a car that you can buy today very easily? Or do you need to wait and save more money or increase your income in order to be able to buy that car? I will be talking all about this. Now, I have been through this mistake where 10 years ago, I bought a car which I could not afford. The only reason I bought the car was out of social pressure. Now, the question might be, if I couldn't afford the car, how was I able to pay for the car? Well, here comes the magic of leasing, financing. Through leasing and financing, I was able to purchase a car which was out of my reach in terms of the value of the car itself. And even the expense that I was paying on monthly basis was excessive, only for me to realize after 6 months that the amount of money that I'm paying on monthly basis for this car is excessive. And because of this payment that I'm doing on monthly basis, I'm not able to afford other things which were far more priority for me as against just owning this car. And hence, I realized my mistake, and within 6 months, I was able to sell off the car and get rid of those payments altogether. Given I've had this mistake before, I was always looking for a way to know what is the right value of the car that I can buy. And hence, once I figured it out, I decided that I will also be making a video on it. And here is this video. Now, one call out before we move forward. In case you find any value from this video, I have to ask for you. One, smash the like button. It comes for free. You won't have to pay anything. And second, subscribe to the channel so you get notified as soon as I put a new content on this channel. Liking and subscribing will go a long way in helping me improve the quality and the quantity of the content that I post on this channel. On this channel, I post content pertaining to career and financial success. So how you can go about achieving career and how you can go about achieving financial freedom and financial success. If these are the topics that are of interest to you, then please make sure that you support my channel. Now, why am I talking about cars to begin with? The reason is that one of the biggest financial mistakes that people end up making, or something that really ruins people's finances, is a purchase of a car. And the maximum regret that happens of a buyer, which is a buyer regret, is because of car purchase. So every time you purchase a car which is more than you can afford, there is always a regret that follows. Now, why is it so that it is such a big mistake and regret follows? Is because one, there is some emotions involved in the decision, and second, the value of the investment is very high as well. Probably after getting done with the purchase of your house, the second most important need that you might be feeling is of a car. And hence there is a big chance that you end up making a mistake there just because of the swing in the value that exists in the market. A car can be as low as $5,000 and as high as hundreds of thousands of dollars. So a lot of emotions are involved here as well. The kind of car I like, the comfort, and the status signaling that I want to do to others. Now, one caution here. Just like as my example played out where I could not afford the car and I went for financing, be wary of financing and leasing, because when you go to a dealer, the dealer can make any number work for you. So for instance, if you tell the dealer, oh, I can only give or carve out $500 per month for a car payment, they can make it work. They can make it work through simply increasing the number of years you will be making that payment. So in reality, you might end up paying a lot of money for that car just because you wanted a certain payment which was a smaller number, and the dealer made it work for you. This was exactly my example as well. While I could not afford the total value of the car, I went for financing and leasing and made it a number which looked nice to me. However, not realizing that in reality, I would be paying twice as much as the price of the car itself, just because the tenure of the financing or the leasing was massive. in order to accommodate for the smaller amount of monthly payments. So do not get fooled by trying to look for small payments or just telling the dealer, this is the number which I can afford, make it work for me. No. That is why this video and whatever I will share in this video is super important, because you need to be aware when you go to the dealer that you tell the dealer that this is the car that I can afford, as against them telling you the car that you can afford. Don't even give them any numbers from your side. Just tell them this is the car I need, this is the value of the car, and these are the terms that I would need on the car. So I will explain all of this in this video. Now, previously I've made a video on comparison between cash, lease, and finance. I believe it is very important that you check out that video before going further in this video, because that will give you a good idea in terms of how car dealers are kind of ripping you and trying to sell you something where they make more money. It is very important for you to understand that mathematics, and I explain the mathematics behind cash purchase, lease purchase, and financing. I compare all three of them and which one is better for you. So make sure you check out that video. Now, I am a big fan of rules that have worked for people previously, rules that have worked for experts previously, and something that has worked historically for people and people swear by it. I would like to use their learning as against trying to create my own formula. So the rules or the formulas that I will share today in this video as to how much car you can afford are the ones that have been used historically by many experts, and they swear by it. And I've kind of worked them out as well on my sheet, on my piece of paper, and for myself as well, and they work perfectly. So these three rules that I will be sharing with you, you can use any of them. Now, first rule is pretty simple and it's very easy to understand, which is that the car you should be purchasing should not be more than 25 to 35% of your annual gross income. So let's say if your annual gross income is $100,000, then the car that you should be purchasing should not be more than $25,000 or $35,000 of value. This is kind of the range. Now, $35,000 is more for car enthusiasts who really think car is the priority. It's the number one priority. They love cars and they can kind of compensate elsewhere on their finances, but car is something which is very important to them. Then 35 is the number. However, if car is something which is a vehicle or a tool for you to move from one place to another, which is kind of the case for me. I love cars, I like cars, but not to an extent of spending 35% of my annual gross salary on it. Then 25% is the number for you. So the number that I would be using is 25%, because again, I'm not a car lover, I'm not a car enthusiast. I just like cars enough for them to comfortably drive me from one place to another. So 25% would be a number for you, which is if your gross salary is $100,000, then you can only spend $25,000 on the car. Now, the second rule is very sophisticated and it is one of the most famous and widely used rule, which is 24-10. Now, this rule is primarily more so when you are making a cash purchase, because the value of the car should be between 25 to 35% and you just make a cash purchase. However, if you are making a purchase where there is financing and lease involved, then this rule that I'm about to share with you is more widely used, which is a 24-10 rule. That means that you should at any given point in time be putting down as down payment 20% of the car value. So if the car value is $25,000, then you should be putting down $5,000 as down payment. Now, the reason it is important is, one, it reduces the amount of money that you need to borrow. Second, because you will be borrowing less money, because now you are not borrowing $25,000, which is the value of the car. Instead, you're only borrowing $20,000. The interest payments would be smaller as well. You don't have to pay high interest payments, and hence your monthly payments that you would be doing would also be smaller, because there is smaller amount of principal that you need to pay, which is $20,000, and the interest on $20,000 will be lower in dollar terms versus the interest that you would be paying on $25,000. Thirdly, it avoids you being under the water, especially when you are buying a new car, because a new car loses its value, around 20% of its value on day one. As you drive it out of the garage, around 15 to 20% of the value is lost there and then. And over 3 years, it loses around 30% of its value. So that means if you purchase a car and you've paid 20% down payment, and after 6 months you realize you cannot afford the payments anymore and you want to sell the car, well, you can still sell the car and or give away the car altogether, because it would have depreciated 20%, which is around $5,000, and that is the amount that you've already paid as down. So all you owe on the car is $20,000, which is actually the value of the car after a few months of its purchase. So you can simply give away the car. However, if you had borrowed the entire $25,000 for a car, and now if you go back after a couple of months and you want to give away the car has lost 20% of its value. So the value of the car is $20,000, but you owe $25,000 on that car. So after you sell the car, you only get $20,000. And in order for you to settle the loan, you have to pay another $5,000 from your pocket there and then. That is what is meant by being under the water, which is the value of the car is lower than the loan or the money you owe on the car. And hence, if you've already paid 20%, which is $5,000 of the car value, in that case, you will never be under the water on the car. And lastly, it is more responsible to buy the car with as much cash as possible, and 20% is the least number. You should go higher than that, but at least it should be 20%. Now let's talk about the number 4 in the formula, which is 24-10. Number 4 is the tenure. You should not have a tenure which is more than 4 years. What this does is, one, it helps you pay for the borrowed money that you borrowed against the car relatively quickly. When you pay the money quickly, you pay less interest on that money. Secondly, it allows for freeing up of cash, which you are committing on every month for that particular car. So you only have to do it for 4 years, and after 4 years, you completely own the car because your term was only 4 years. If you extend the term out or more than 4 years, then you would be paying those payments beyond 4 years, and hence you would be tying yourself up, or you will be tying up that particular cash, which can be used elsewhere for better use. Last number in the formula is 10, 24-10. 10 means that your expenses for the car on monthly basis or annual basis should not be more than 10% of your monthly or annual income. Now, this does not only include the interest and the principal payment, which is the monthly payments you are making against the borrowed money, but also cost of repair and maintenance, and cost of fuel and cost of insurance. So everything that is related to the car should not be more than 10% of your income. The idea here is to make sure that you create room for other parts of your life as well. Like there is rental, there are groceries, there are shopping, there is education, there is eat out, everything else. So if your car expenses take more than 10% of your total income, then you will have to compromise majorly elsewhere. Now, the last rule that I want to talk about is my favorite rule, which is the delayed gratification rule. The idea here is always buy the car on cash. Again, I would kind of mix and match this rule with the first rule, which is if you have cash to buy, the value of the car should not still be more than 25% of the income that you have for that particular year, the gross income. However, irrespective of that, it should always be a cash purchase. Now, I know you would be saying, I like this car, which is worth $25,000, and I cannot afford that car, and hence I need to go for financing and lease. Here is my solution to that, which is to work with delayed gratification. Now let's talk some numbers as well, so you can get an idea of what I mean by delayed gratification and what kind of gratification stands at the end of that delay. So here are some numbers. Let's say the car purchase is $25,000. Now in any case, in the 24-10 formula, you were putting $5,000, which is the 20% of the car value, as down payment, which means that you would only be borrowing $20,000. If you borrow $20,000 at 5.75% interest rate, which is kind of the interest rate which is available these days in the market. So in total, you would be paying $2,875 on top of the $20,000. So you have to return the $20,000 loan or the money that you borrowed, but on top, the interest payment over 4 years for that money that you borrowed at 5.75% rate is $2,875. So the total value of the car would end up being $22,875, which on monthly basis for 4 years would end up becoming $477. So essentially you've paid $5,000 as down payment, and then you pay $477 every month for 4 years in order to completely purchase the car. Now here's my suggestion with how you go about delaying your gratification, which is you buy a beaten up car for $5,000, which is the amount of money you were ready to pay in cash as down payment. So you have that money, $5,000, and you buy a beaten up car. You don't buy the $25,000 car on finance and lease. By doing so, you're able to save paying $477 that you would have paid for the $25,000 car in case you were financing it. So you save that $477 for all those 4 years. And now if you are saving this money, but you don't just save this money, but you also invest this money in the stock market and let's say earn 10% return on it based on the historical performance of S&P 500. So by end of 4 years, you will have $29,000. Now let's say you have this car which you bought 4 years ago for $5,000 and the value of the car today is $1,000. So you sell the car for $1,000. You have $29,000 which you generated just because you were saving that $477 and also invested it in the stock market. You have this $29,000, you add $1,000 in it, and after 4 years, you are able to buy a car worth $30,000 purely on cash. Again, you don't have to pay any other payment from your pocket, from your monthly income at all. Now you own a $30,000 car all out of cash and you own it completely. This is the beauty of delayed gratification. Of course, you won't enjoy a good car today. You will have to wait for it 4 years. But as they say, live like no one else today so you can live like no one else tomorrow. Hopefully this video was helpful for you to kind of have an idea as to what is the value of the car that you can afford. In case you found value from this video, I'm sure you'll find value from another video where I talk about how you can go about increasing your returns in the stock market. You can check it out here. Other than that, there is another video where I talk about my personal financial freedom journey. I'm sure you can find a lot of inspiration from that video as well. You can check it out here. Thank you.